Welcome to Scarves and Spikes.
Hello to all the Atlanta United fans. My name is Jurgen Damm, and you are watching Scarves and Spike, an Atlanta United podcast.
Welcome to the Scarves and Spikes. Sydney, Tyler, and Tommy with you. Great to have you along for the ride as we look ahead to Atlanta United and DC United and Leagues Cup and talk about a whole lot of other stuff. Guys, how's it going? Tommy you made it back home.
He made it. You finally made it.
Congratulations. You'll have to write a book someday about your travails getting back home.
What an adventure. The entire after the game, after leaving the game and then hanging out on Sunday all in Atlanta, and then Monday got to the airport, find out it's canceled. It was like an apocalypse. It felt like an apocalypse when you walked through all the different areas, the terminals, all the art pieces. There's just lines of people sleeping everywhere. And it's smart, because if I was going to sleep at Atlanta Airport, I would sleep in the rainforest. It's dark. It's noises, but then you go to the next section and it's bright as could be, but there's the little stands telling you what the piece of art is. People are sleeping under those things. It was wild. But got to hang out in Atlanta, got to go see the Braves get absolutely destroyed. That was fun.
That was the payoff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, got to watch the Braves not be very good. And then was able to make it home somehow.
Well, glad you made it home safe and sound, you and Tina.
Yeah, we're
glad to have you in Atlanta for at least a few days, but hope to see you again at some point in the fall, I think, right?
Yeah, we're coming back in October. I'm working. Nice. I've been on the Delta chat now for about 3.5 hours. Yeah, they're trying to get me a travel voucher right now. $200 they're offering me at the moment.
Oh, awesome! After
do I say no deal? I don't know what to do.
No,
deal, no deal,
triple.
Keep us updated on social and all that of your happenings. What else? What else you got?
Best part.
Yes.
So I wanted to see the Robo-Dog so bad that guards the bends, the ghost Robo-Dog that's there. Didn't see him the entire trip, and then Tuesday morning before about to leave, I just see that thing. It's it makes a beeping noise. You could hear it. We were on the 21st floor of the Signia, and you just see this thing walking around, and then it just stops and it freezes, it's sad looking for friends. I wanted to go down there. Tina wouldn't let me because she was afraid I was going to get tasered by Robo-Dog, but he just walks around the whole thing, and
not so
saw that on your social as well. But
I was so happy, happy to see it. Tina's will you stop looking out the window? I'm no, he's moving. Why is he not moving? Does he see a bug? By the way, what's with your attacking ladybugs that are down in Georgia?
I mean, that's
I haven't
one of
seen any
many violent bugs and things that we have. It's part tropical down here, so there's all kinds of unknown species.
Oh, they were just flying down, attacking me.
Or maybe they just hate you, Tommy. I don't know.
Sure, they're ladybugs or something else.
I don't know. They look like ladybugs, but yeah, they were just attacking left and right. It was.
Did they bite you?
No, I hope not.
Because there is actually a bug that looks like a ladybug. But it's slightly more orange, and they will bite.
Also poisonous. No, I'm just
Are they called peach bugs?
No, but that would be cool.
Okay. Well, that's enough for me. However, I just got an alert on my watch. 20 more minutes of stoppage time added to the Argentina game, guys. 20 more minutes.
Here
Get
we
them
go.
back out.
Insane. That is a travesty.
Plenty of time to still make something happen here,
Right.
Argentina.
Exactly. But yeah, got a great show for you today. A little bit later on, Tyler did an interview with Rob Valentino, interim head coach of Atlanta United. We'll have that for you. ScarsandSpikes.com, latest Atlanta United news, transfer updates, and more. Check that out. Patreon.com/ScarsandSpikes. $1.17 a month, $5 a month, and $10 a month. Appreciate you, those of you that do support us on Patreon. Really appreciate your support. If you don't already support us, please, we'd love for that. Especially if you get to more of the transfer window coaching search, patreon.com/scars and spikes. So
you get a discount.
Yeah.
You get a discount
on our merch.
Yeah.
You do get a discount on merch. So get a cup, get a hoodie, get a hat, get all that good stuff.
Again, Norwegians are awesome t-shirts.
Norwegians are awesome t-shirts.
Some things might have happened involving a Norwegian for Atlanta United.
I know. But the link is on our website, scarfsandspikes.com.
Speaking of Gregerson, I don't know if you guys know wrestling, but Jason Longshore, he used a line and say his name and he appears. And if you know Joe Hendry, it's cool. If you don't, Google after this, look up Joe Hendry and go down a rabbit hole on Twitter. This guy's a wrestler that makes funny songs and everything. But then I don't have TikTok. Apparently TikTok has now stopped you from watching videos unless you have the app. You could at least get a one-fer from a link. I had to download it just to watch this video. I knew exactly what it was going to be, what Jason Longshore did. I had to message him. I was like, my daughter loved it. I loved it. It was just, he's a big wrestling nerd, I think, like I am. So I was just so happy to hear it.
I've not heard of Joe Hendry, but I will look
at
Joe
believes.
Hendry.
Jack believes in Joe Hendry.
Jack on YouTube saying, I believe in Joe Hendry. So, yeah, maybe look that up after the show.
I always like when they can sprinkle in some little tidbits here and there.
We were literally just talking about that wrestler on Thursday. And then he uses it. I didn't get to listen to it until on Monday. And I was like, oh, my God, he said it. All right. Sorry, nerding out.
It's okay. We forgive you. Aleksey Miranchuk is close to happening, guys. We woke up on Wednesday morning. Reports from Italy saying that it is close, pretty much a done deal. The Fabrizio Romano saying it's essentially a done deal. And then Tom Bogert, a good friend of the show, Tom Bogert, saying it's a done deal. Excuse me, $13 million, according to Tom Bogert's reporting. Tom made a point about Miranchuk being in the 98th percentile in chance creation while with Atalanta. So I think the big question is Atlanta United, and by the way, the reports initially from Fabrizio Romano were saying about 15 or 16 million euro or something like that, but 13 seems a little bit more palatable, right? So I think the big question is A, when can they get him in, and then B, how can he adjust to MLS? I think that's a very not underrated aspect that a lot of people overlook, but it's just so important. We've seen big ticket signings come in, not just for Atlanta, but around MLS who don't pay it out. I think part of the root cause is they just can't adjust to the style of play that MLS offers versus the leagues that they just came out of. So that's going to be the biggest thing that I'm looking for is, can he adjust? Can he come in and be the player that Atlanta United are essentially signing him for? Of course, not finalized yet, but looks like it's as good as done right now. But he's going to have a big shadow to live up to in Thiago Almada. Nobody's going to expect to replace Thiago Almada like for like, right? But can he become that chance creator as a starter? We see him essentially as a super sub with Atalanta, but he has a winning record. He won Europa League with Atalanta, came off the bench and has done very well. But now as a starter, projected in MLS, he's going to have a lot to live up to. in the place essentially of Thiago Almada. So looks like, again, as good as done. What do you guys think?
I think, the one factor that you never know, like you said, is can he adjust? But that's a factor in any league to league transfer in the world. MLS maybe a little bit more so because you have the travel. It's a bigger country than most, right? There's so many little factors that may tie into it. But you look at this guy's stats, and I know there's been the kind of the argument of, well, he's not a starter, not a consistent starter. That's fine. Like, it doesn't have to be that he goes from being the starting number 10 for Atalanta to the starting number 10 for Atlanta.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it doesn't always mean that that person's not going to be effective just because they're a sub in another country. The stats and the numbers show, that he has traits that I think will benefit this team. And yeah, we'll never know till he gets here. But I think overall, I think it's going to be a good signing. I really do. I think it's going to be a little more in the vein of what Garth wants to do, somewhat long term. And I just think it's going to be beneficial, as they really try to not only try to do what they can to save this season, but more so than that, like you have 9 players that you potentially could lose in this offseason. So it's clear they're looking farther ahead than just the very short term. I think he's going to be a guy that is able to fit in. I see what Zilf's saying. Will he fit in with a new coach? Yeah. I mean, if Rob's not here, or if he, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Friend of the show, Rob.
Yeah. Friend of the show, Rob. I think if he is, as kind of a universal overall talent as it seems he is, and if Garth Lagerwey is as smart as we know he is, they're going to find a person that's going to be able to get the most out of Miranchuk. It's my opinion.
Yeah. And real quick, Tommy, I see some of the chatter online about the geopolitical climate in Russia and all of that. I'm sure the club has vetted that. I'm sure that's a major concern.
Let me jump in this real quick.
Real quick before you do that, I understand, a lot of that going on, and trust me, I'm sure the club does too. The club isn't stupid. The club, if they knew there were issues, there are red flags with this guy, they wouldn't have signed him. I honestly believe that. And just because someone's from Russia doesn't mean they subscribe to the political leanings of the person in power in Russia, just like any other country in the world. So that's just kind of my 2 cents. Tyler, I don't know what you're going to say, but
yeah. And Tommy, not trying to keep you from talking. I want you to get your opinion out too.
I just did an energy drink. Let it kick in. Go ahead.
Hey, there you go. No, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just, look, at the end of the day, you've got the social media posts out there where he has Ukrainian teammates, right, that have come out and said, I love this guy. He's a good guy. This is post everything that's going on geopolitically, right? He doesn't seem to be a person that cares to be involved in anything. But I can guarantee you that this club and this organization, not just Atlanta, is going to do, like you said, Sydney, the biggest vetting process because they're doing it. Sure. It seems like that's just a thing that AMB does now with everybody. They have the resources and they're using them. They did it with Almada, right?
Yeah, except on Deshaun Watson, though.
Well, yeah, they did it with Lagerwey.
For our Falcons podcast.
Right. Yeah,
that's a different team.
Yeah,
no, but I don't think at all. This club would touch a player with a 10-foot pole if they had any inclination that he was tied in any way to supporting that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So I think at the end of the day, being the fan base that Atlanta has, being inclusive, and I understand, and I don't want to bring up anybody's names in the chat, which is why I'm not, saying specific names, but Obviously, not being from there, it's not easy to relate. But I think at the end of the day, we have to look at people as people and know that, like, if they don't support that kind of stuff, then we just have to take that at the value that we can and say, hey, the person is a person. That doesn't mean that they reflect the values of just where they happen to be born at, right? It's a guy that plays professional soccer for a living and doesn't seem to be involved in any kind of politics at all. He just wants to play soccer. So you got to give him the benefit of the doubt, in my opinion, and just welcome him with open arms and show him, some Southern hospitality
until
when
he
he gets
proves otherwise. Yeah, until he proves otherwise.
Yeah. So
I'll just say, I mean, every country, every city, every township has good people and they have bad people. It's getting to know them and figuring out from there. We're not going to tell you to like the guy. We're not going to tell you to hate the guy. Figure out what's for you. A lot of people hated Thiago Almada before he came in. A lot of people made some judgments on him. He came in and he did have some baggage, some that was provable and some that wasn't. He apologized for that stuff and he moved on. Figure it out from there. I think he's, we might not know the full extent of him until this team is rebuilt next year, right? Even this season, I'm not going to make early judgments on him. I obviously want the guy to stay healthy. I want to see him being able to produce. Let's see what happens here. I mean, the team's not done. There's obviously still opportunities to get in. There's a lot of work to do. And as it comes back, and we said this last year, we said this at the exact same time last year going into after Leagues Cup. I know Leagues Cup isn't over, but when Leagues Cup's over, you're going to LA, and there's where it goes. We went to Seattle last year. What happened? We came in, we got a win, and vamos to the playoffs. Who knows if that's going to happen? Yeah. But you want to see signs, right? You want to see signs that he's obviously going to make the team better. Who knows what other changes we're going to have here? Who knows if they go and they spend, on a number 9 here through this window, or maybe they wait. If they wait, not the end of the world. But let's just see what happens here. Let's see when he comes in. Let's see if he's got a personality when he comes in interviews as well. I mean, that's one of the things that I look at a player like initially is like, am I going to like this guy, right? Like, it's just because I think one of the things that has been missing, and the club's been doing a better job over the past 2 years, is showing these players personalities. Back then you used to see like the Almiron, Joseph funny thing videos that they made with the emojis with their phone, like all those things. And like, that's what like, there's part of liking a team and there's a part of becoming attached to a team. And I think what the team did so early on is there were so many likable players. There were so many people that loved the city of Atlanta that's what made us fall in love with it. And, Julian Gressel was something that came up. Our friends, the Battered Herons, got into it with Julian Gressel. Go check that out. There's a whole story with that. But like these guys, right? Like Gressel, you knew that he was like Atlanta, right? He was the city of Atlanta, right? What did he do when they won MLS Cup? He took it straight to the supporter section. He did, right? That was what he did. And that's what I'm hoping for whatever the next generation of all these players that come in. And you get that from some of these guys for sure. Let's keep that going. Let's keep showing these guys a personality. And exactly, Jack, I mean, that's the same thing. I think for me, never a huge soccer fan, just kind of casual for a long time. Joseph Martinez, you always remember your first favorite player, right, of a sport, right? And I think that's unfortunately mine for football was Michael Vick. Well, that went down the tubes.
Great
and
judgment, Tommy.
Then turned into Matt Ryan after that. But I mean, I just hope that, we continue to have players that want to be here. And I saw Emilio's comment about like, does he want to be here? They're not going to pay the fees, and they're not going to go give this guy whatever contract he's going to get if he doesn't want to be here. And I keep seeing that. And I saw Rob, I'll retweet, something about that last night. Like, it was just an article from a paper. We don't even know if he said that. And like, who knows? Like at that point,
who knows what the translation might have actually been.
Exactly.
Yeah. And like, who knows if he knows about MLS, right? Like, who knows if he actually knows that much about the league, right? He's got to go learn exactly what it is. And, if he likes it where he lives, then it's obviously a huge culture shock to him. And yeah, he might be at the beginning not knowing. But what happened with with Giakoumakis. Bocanegra goes over there, sells him, and I mean, this is at least what he told us, right? He said that if, Boca came in and sold him on it. Now, he didn't last very long, but it's still, he said that was a big part, was coming and selling him on the city, selling him on the league, selling him on the long-term project, and he came here and he was happy, okay? He was very happy when he came here, obviously, and he embraced the fans. I know he bailed, so it's maybe not the best example in the world, but
I mean,
players
he got an
leave all the
offer for
time.
more money that, I don't
Exactly.
think a lot of people expected of any league to come calling for Giakoumakis when he got here. It was going to be Liga MX.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody knew he wanted more money. That was reported. And I mean, Atlanta has to put their foot in the dirt at some point, right? They got to draw a line in the sand and say, like, we're not going to pay you more, especially when you can only stay on the field 57% of the time.
Yeah.
So, like,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's just so many factors into it. And I will say, like, like Ashton saying, oh, wait, no, that's not the one. Ashton saying no European player would want to leave Europe if they don't have to. And I think my caveat to that is I don't think he has to. And I think maybe that might be where this translation maybe was taken a little bit out of context, possibly. I don't know. But he could have been just saying, like, hey, if there's still a chance that I'm still going to be at some point the guy on this team, then I have a decision to make. That's not the same as saying, like, well, no, I just don't want to go to Atlanta. One, a player, like, if they don't want to go, they don't have to go.
Right.
Like, nobody's forcing them to go.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And then number two is like kind of like what Tommy said. If Atlanta's going to be doing their thing, right? And if they get any inclination that the player does not want to come here and help this team win, they're not going to do it. And, to go from maybe being a sub occasionally to being one of the guys for a big team in Atlanta United, whether we're talking about the results lately or not, big team in Atlanta United, you have to think that some players will look at that as a possible fresh start in their career at a prime age, and they can become a guy that, has that Joseph Martinez moment for Atlanta or whatever. So I wouldn't look too much into that comment as much as it's been thrown around.
I do want to jump in and say this too, and totally agree with what you guys are saying. I do want to stress, and I don't know if I can stress this enough to Atlanta United fans. Aleksey Miranchuk and Thiago Almada are two totally different players. Number one, Miranchuk is older in his prime. Exact player that Garth has said he wants to bring in 24 to 29, that prime age player. So that's one thing. The other thing, the style is totally different. And outside of that, he's playing a different league, a different setting in Italy, Atalanta, Torino, different setting, different country, different continent. So the style of football in Serie A is totally different than the style of football in Argentina and South America. So those are two, differences right off the bat that, you can't overstate the fact that, if you're looking for Aleksey Miranchuk to be a mirror image of Thiago Almada, and I really don't think a lot of fans are, but if you're looking for that, you're going to be sorely disappointed. This is a different player with a different set of skills, a different set of things that he can offer to Atlanta United. So, Tommy, you kind of said earlier on, don't make a judgment right off the bat. That adjustment period is different for all players. We saw Saba come in. We saw Munyaba come in. We saw Shande come in and do very well last year, who came in the summer, were able to affect the team immediately. If Miranchuk isn't able to do that, hopefully he is, but if Miranchuk isn't able to do that, we can't just say, it's a failed signing. Again, I hope he does. I hope he sets the league on fire as soon as he comes here, but the reality is not everyone does. Everyone needs that adjustment period, and I hope that fans can give him the time he needs to get adjusted to a new country, a new league, a new language. I assume he speaks some English, but a new language where everybody's speaking the same language. He dealt with it in Italy, of course, but it's a new culture that he'll have to get settled into. So hopefully the fans, we've talked about this before with other players, hopefully fans can give him that rope, that slack to do what he needs to do. Ashton in the YouTube chat saying Miranchuk has the body to be able to win and earn the ball, unlike Almada, who relied on others to get the ball, which, yeah, kind of definitely jives with the player that Thiago was. Another thing that, and I spoke about Thiago, he tends to take things too much on himself. So, tended to, I should say. So maybe with Miranchuk, never having to have really been the guy, capital T, capital G, he can use that to his advantage and become, I don't want to say a better player than Thiago Almada, but become a player that can really
That's the
fit
hope.
this team. Like, yeah, well, you know what I mean. But the hope is he can come in and adjust pretty rapidly because of that. So,
and you need the right guy. You need the right guys coaching. So, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, whether it's Rob or someone else here, we'll see what happens. We'll see how the team builds. You know, they have a team right now, and some of the players they've been having to have up here for a long time. The team's going to look very different next year. So, if these, you know, this short period of time, you know, he looks okay, next season, he could look even better. I want to see how him and Tristan link up here. Like, I think that's extremely important, right? I think we've seen Tristan go backwards from last year. I think that's been everyone's complaint, is that we just haven't seen him excel to where we saw him those first 5 games. Let's see how that helps. How do these two all work together? How does Sleesh work with them? How do the wingers work with them? How does all this really come together is going to be the interesting thing in the next, I mean, it's not just in the next 3 months. It's in, you know, July 24th next year.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this in a year, you know, after he comes in. What's been a full year of him? How has he been? You know, has he improved? That's really the goal here. But I still want to see more rumors. I'm sure there's going to be some more coming here.
Exactly.
Is there going to be more? Are they going to continue to get someone else there at the left back position? That's interesting to watch.
Yeah.
You know, I know they have to declare here soon. I declare what how they want to do the, you know, the DP U22 situation.
Roster building mechanism, yeah.
Right. How are they going to do that? We've got a lot to be excited about here. You know, in the next month or so to see how this team evolves, and I mean that's exciting. And
you know what I'm excited about too? So kind of segue.
Is it Leagues Cup?
Well, kind of. But for this podcast specifically, I'm excited for an interview Tyler did with Atlanta United interim head coach Rob Valentino. So Tyler, you had a chance to sit down with him, record it, you know, for those watching this live, it's recorded, but you had a chance to sit down with him and pick his brain, talk about who he is, what his background is, how he got into coaching, just sort of what his philosophy is and his approach is to coaching. And he's mentioned it before in press settings, but he had a chance to sit down with him and really dig into it. So you're muted, by the way.
Yeah, my bad. No, we had a great conversation. I wish we could have had another 25 minutes, because there was a handful of things I would love to have asked him that we just obviously didn't have time for. The guy's a busy man, head coach of Atlanta United right now. So, and this is like the first Wednesday I think that he's had free.
Yeah.
And it seems like forever. So, I mean, you know, it was a great talk. I think it'll do a lot just for people to kind of get to know Rob better, because in a lot of ways for Atlanta fans, you know, he's always been like that guy that's just like, you know, he's there because you hear so much about him. And like for us at the training ground, like we hear him running, you know, training at times and everything else.
Yep.
Go back to 2021 when he had, you know, the opportunity, and it's just, you never get that moment to kind of get to know like who he is and where he came from and how he kind of came up and his whole philosophy. So that was what we talked about, and it was really good. And it gave insight on what it's been like, you know, with the team the past few weeks as he's taken over and kind of where he wants to go for here. And yeah, it'll be good. So y'all check it out.
Here is Tyler with Rob Valentino.
Here with interim Atlanta United head coach Rob Valentino. Rob, really appreciate you hopping on talking with us for a little bit. You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
First Wednesday, it seems like in forever, you actually don't have a game tonight.
Yeah, that's true. We've been crazy scheduled, so it's nice to have a little bit of training time.
So obviously this is, opportunity for fans get to know you a little bit better. Just kind of pick your brain a little bit, but I'll dive right into it. But maybe for people that aren't as in tune with Atlanta as over the years, take a minute, kind of go through what your coaching career has looked like overall.
Yeah, I mean, it's developed a big part in Atlanta. But yeah, I mean, I started coaching in 2015. I was still playing at the time, and my old teammate Anthony Pilas, who's the assistant at Salt Lake, had asked me to potentially retire and come back and coach with him when they were starting up the B team in Orlando. I know some fans won't love me saying that, but it was a place that I played before and so in the place I was really familiar, and I'd just been there. So I looked at it as like a long-term potential of something I want to do after. I wasn't sure exactly where I liked coaching. I wasn't sure exactly what my pathway would be after I stopped playing. I was just starting a family, and it ended up being a really good opportunity to still train with some of the guys, but also learn the art of coaching. And Anthony is a great young coach, and he was somebody to help learn from. So I was training as well as coaching, I guess you could say. I didn't do a ton, I would say, my first year, which I was 100% okay with. It was really just learning. Started the coaching courses and that. And after about, I think it was a year and a half, the first 6 months was essentially helping the first team because we didn't have a team yet with the B team, and then kind of orchestrating and starting that. And then from there, we did 2 seasons with the B team, and then they went away with it. So I knew I was coming up to having to find a new opportunity, and the opportunity to come to Atlanta what popped up with people I knew with Carlos and at the time Paul McDonough. So I ended up landing in a really good spot, being the second team assistant coach. And it was honestly, I was just talking with Ronald Hernandez about why I coach and that North Star that I always have. It was more about, at the time, I was working with that age group of players that was really hungry to push on and earn a first team contract. Because I felt like that was my whole career, is that I was in MLS and then I dropped out, and then it was like every day was about how can I get back into that MLS team, how can I make a debut at MLS level. And so it just consumed me. And when I thought about it as I started to coach, I was like, I want to be working with players that are hungry to get there and have a lot of talent to really push and get to that level. I thought I had that talent. Other decisions that were beyond me told me I wasn't, but I really wanted to work with players like that. And also at the end of the day, I wanted to influence people and help players achieve more than they thought they really could. So working with that level of player and players that were the age group and also where they sat in certain rosters, I thought it was a really good spot for me to start. And then I was fortunate enough after one season to get promoted and start working with the first team when Frank DeBoer came. And that was, a different learning curve and different type of player you're working with. Like working with Joseph is a lot different than working with an academy striker that's trying to on the up and coming. So they were invaluable learning tools, as you learn almost just with the experience and learning on the fly. And from there, it's just progressed every single year. And yeah, I mean, I've done this now twice. Unfortunately, I say that it's been on the selfish standpoint, it's been really good. I'm really grateful for these types of opportunities, but the way they come about is not nice. And I really don't love that part, on both staffs. There was friendships, there was relationships that I built, and that was really hard. At the same time, once I've moved past those emotions and moved forward with those, I took the opportunity and I'm just trying to do the best I can with it. So, here I am talking with you guys, and we'll see what else lands for me next.
There's obviously a lot of good stuff in there, but you mentioned coming up with the twos, and then when Frank DeBoer took over, what have been some of the things that you've kind of taken from each of the other coaches that have come through? Because I understand totally. We talked about that a lot, very recently with, when it becomes your opportunity, it is because of essentially something negative, right? But you're in a position now where you're the guy again. What have you taken from those various coaches that have come before you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, and I'm glad you asked, because I took something from all of them. I've worked with a bunch of different coaches, and like Tata obviously was the first team coach when I come, and obviously with the success he had, it was great. But also like on the field, it was the first time I got to experience. Yeah, I would say it's the first time I ever experienced in this side of the game coaching a coach that was from a different country that was really, really foreign to me. I'd played for English coaches. I'd played for people that I would say there wasn't anything I hadn't seen in some. I don't mean to be arrogant, but I'd seen a lot of the ideas that they had talked about, the way I'd seen the leagues that they had played in or coached in. So I understood that. But Tata was the first one where I was like, man, that's a whole different way of training, different ideas, a different type of passion. So that part was really cool to take a lot of like the high energy, high intensity exercises or just thoughts that he had. Frank had a different mentality coming from Europe, and the experience he had a lot more about, I would say, the possession-based stuff that he had learned in Ajax, a lot about being really solid defensive middle block team. And even though maybe our team didn't always play like that, but we would have conversations on different ways. He had different types of training exercises that he had done in Ajax, whether it was, before when he had seen things as a player or seen things as a coach. So like you took little things like that. Even just like the stories about maybe playing days or things that he saw in different dressing rooms. And even like you look at Glassy, like Glassy had a lot of different crazy, cool stories about, I don't mean crazy, but he had cool stories about his playing days. And then in being like a proud Scottish guy, he has this intense passion. And I mean, I thought that was a whole different perspective from going from Frank to then Glassy. And then you go into Gabby Heinze, and I mean, him and the rest of his staff were really, really good with me. The way they saw things and the way he saw the game, and there was a lot of, when I watched a lot of the stuff, it was a lot about like the way you would imagine Bielsa would train. He never named the coaches, but he talked about the ones he had learned from, and then to talk about different locker rooms he had been in. And so I got to learn like a whole different type of passion that he had for the game, and one that I hadn't seen ever, but that was an interesting one. And also different training techniques and different ways of doing it on the field, and how maybe it's more unit based or how you connect it into individual movements or in pairs. And then working with Gonzo, these guys all had, they all had playing experience that I had learned from different things they had talked about. Gonzo had really cool experience in Seattle, so that I got to learn from different things that they did that was really successful, things that he did as a player in Mexico. So again, a different way of playing, a different way of coaching. He had a different way of organizing, and I'd say different in a good way, help organize whether it's meetings or structures of training and the way methodology and periodization was. Like he had a different way of thinking there. So I always try to take whatever good things that I thought also made sense to the way I see the game or the way I feel it. So without giving like overall specifics, like I took something from all of them and sometimes melting them together. Ultimately, like there's a lot of things that everyone almost like steals from each other. Yeah. Not in the way of like, oh, I'm just going to replicate exactly what he did. But I played for Adrian Heath, and Adrian used to do these attacking patterns as a player, and I actually really liked them. Maybe a lot of people think they were boring, but we used to do 11v0, or it would be doubled up, and we would do 11v0, and he would make it fun and competitive, and we would do this side versus this side, how many assists. And I remember him being like really enthusiastic with it, and I liked it. And I remember trying it for the first time as a coach, and like the group just kind of looking at me like, this is boring. I was like, oh man, but it worked. Like Adrian did it, it worked.
Yeah.
And I realized it worked for him, but the way I was doing it wasn't me, it wasn't working. So I still like to do something similar, but I've added my own little twist to it and my own thoughts on how that can run a little bit different with more energy and more authentic to me. So, and I was talking to him about this the other day, because I said, did you still do those? Like, how did it work? Did you adapt them? And anyways, we had a good conversation about it. And that's just something, again, like learning from different coaches that you've either played for or been around is important, because I think that we take different ideas and then we try to mold them to ourselves.
That kind of leads into my next question. It's a melting pot, right? All the coaches, all the playing time that you've had before, it all kind of molds into your own ideas and philosophy. But what would you consider or define as your coaching philosophy and how you want the team to play?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's evolving, but like I would say, like it's hardworking, passionate, forward thinking in all phases. So I always try to tell them, like, whether it's an attacking topic or as a defending topic, it's about thinking to go forward so we can eventually score a goal. Like you score goals, you win the game, and you don't concede, right? But and the defensive part of it is if you're hardworking, you're passionate, you're intense. Those things I want the teams that I'm working with, I want them to display those things, and it's on every side of the ball. I'm not one that would sit here and go like, I'm a dominant possession guy, and I think a lot of people say it, but are you really, like, can you really do that? And what do your groups have? Like, I think that one thing that I have that I would say I have in my locker is that I'm adaptable. Like you, and I think you have to be as a coach. And I've worked in a second team environment for the start of my career, so it was about adapting on the fly. You start with 12 guys for training, then all of a sudden first team takes 3 and you've got 9. So what are you doing, and how are you getting the most out of that group? So I try to always adapt to what we have and evaluate that and make sure that, yes, it's true to the way, I want to play this way, but guess what? I don't have X, Y, and Z to play that way. Then if you keep doing it, you're the stupid one. So I don't want to be that guy that's like, well, I only play this way and that's it. I play the way I want the teams to play and be a representation of me. That's great, but that's more about like the character and the work rate and things like that. So those parts are really big to me. The X's and O's, I can be adaptable. There's certain things I like, and I would say I would continue to be me in that way, but I will adapt to the teams and the environments that I continue to have.
It's kind of an inside joke over the past like 2 months, essentially since you took over, but I've said on our show the word pragmatic. I don't know how many times, man. But it's a thing that you have to have. I feel, this is just my humble opinion, you have to be able to change and, like you said, adapt. And so yeah, I've used that word multiple times because it seems like the lineups and everything else, you come out and it seems like there's significant thought put into how are we going to do this to the team that's right in front of us right now, not how are we going to do this overall through the entire season and keep it exactly the same.
That's one of the biggest compliments I've had. So thank you. We have a running joke with the staff as well, because I mean, we can give Doug credit for it because he's the one that asked the question, and maybe everyone's like, this guy's stupid, he doesn't know what that means. But when I sat there and talked with my wife about it, and I was like, man, like I felt like it had a negative connotation. She's like, that's exactly what you're wanting the team to be.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, you're right. And when I look up the definition, and then I started talking with the staff, and so now we have the same joke, is that if someone says that to me, I'm like, well, then we're doing it right, because ultimately the goal is to score goals, win the game, and how you do that is up to you. Like, look at the Columbus game. They had 70% possession, and it's not a disrespect to them by any means, but it's what you do with it. And ultimately it's about winning the game and how we can win the game. It's not that I want to be untrue to myself. The team was true to the way we wanted to play, and we were pragmatic in the game. We played what the game gave us, and I thought we did a good job of making sure that they dominated a lot of teams. So what they do with it, you look at where their shots came from, like it wasn't the areas that they normally come from. So that was where I was happy with, and that team can stay true to who we think we are.
It's funny because I remember I was in that press conference when you mentioned the pragmatic thing up on the table, and I was like, hey, I'm so glad to hear somebody else say that word, because I've been preaching it for the past month.
That's good.
So with all that being said, what are some of the biggest improvements that you would like to see out of the squad, kind of as it stands right now, if anything?
No, like we're always looking at what we can affect now, and that was true to each time. Like the time before we took over, it comes obviously in the middle of the season. It's not where you can sit there and go, we've got a ton of training time, let's hit 6 weeks of training and then we'll play the games. No, the games are coming, and we had over the last 2 months, we had just games and games. So a lot of it was looking at times looking at the game and then evaluating off the game and going, okay, we're still missing this, or evaluating because we were evaluating the squad and what we had, and we were trying to make adaptations before. But ultimately, now it's different voices. It's different. There's different people that are involved. So we're trying to and there's different players here. So now we're trying to make more progress with what we think exactly we can get at. So we look at I think the first game when we really saw some improvements was like the defensive shape, even though giving up a goal 40 seconds in the game. The defensive shape was something that made improvement and potentially could have put us on a different side of that score sheet. So I've told this to all you guys before, is that take the outcome out of it, take the set pieces out. It was a game that I was actually, people are going to cane me for saying this, but like, I was proud of it. It was a game that I felt like we were really in it. It's difficult to win away, and we made some progression as a team. So that defensive shape and being solid and be able to create opportunities to attack and actually have goal scoring opportunities from defensive shape was something that I thought we could start to make progress with. And that's where every game I feel like there is some of that. And then from the other part of it, on the other side of the ball, is about being pragmatic, playing what the game gives us. If it's the space in behind, you go with the space in behind. If it's space in between and we can play, great. And I never want us to be a team that's predictable in a way of like, all right, they're always gonna build out, they're always gonna play from goal kick, they're always gonna have this certain pattern. There's certain ideas that I want the team to have, that yes, of course, but the predictable is not that. So every game out, there's certain areas that we try to attack, and I think that we're seeing that can be difficult sometimes, I think, with players too, because they're going, oh, tell me exactly how to beat them. Well, I tell you that, they're going to figure it out and they're going to stop us. So that is something where I started to see some progression in the team of being that pragmatic team of, okay, they got a high line, we're going to play behind. Like take Columbus, for example, like with the lineup that we put out, we were looking at something a little bit more direct, and we thought that this could be a different way to hurt them. And there was opportunity in that. So again, not letting the outcome dictate it, but also what we're going to do in the game plan to ultimately get the outcome we want.
And I know obviously the results are what matter, right? But like, I think there are things in games that you can look at and say, well, that went well, or that half went well and that other half didn't go well, or, you know, whatever. But when you go back and look and you kind of do review, which I know y'all haven't had a ton of time to do lately, but when you go back and review, what is the message, I guess, to the guys in terms of like, you know, do you isolate certain, you know, plays or certain halves, or, you know, just certain parts of the game and say, hey, this is kind of do more of this and don't do more of this? Or kind of how do you go through your film sessions?
Yeah, there's every game is different. And like, to be honest, because we've just had games and games and games, we've done a lot of review because we've not had a ton of time on the field. So it's about, I'm not saying we do long film sessions, but we would do, whether it's a quick review of the game or we move on to the opponent, but at some point we always review some part of the game. And so, for example, Montreal. So Montreal, we reviewed the first half. And like, this has been a really cool learning curve for me as well, is that when I look at how I coach, or how we as a staff coach, is that during the pregame, what do we give them? During the first half, what information are we getting onto them, if it's good or bad? And then at halftime, how are we affecting it so that the second half is different or continue on, whatever the messaging might be. And then the review becomes, hey, remember we talked about this is what we tried to adjust, this one didn't work, or hey, this movement did work, this decision, I'll take this one, or whatever. We take the accountability from there. So the Montreal one, for example, the first half, we touched on being too deep defensively, getting higher up the pitch. So we started to make that adjustment. Then we give up a goal within 5 minutes and then a red card. So all of a sudden things change a little bit. But when I look back at the film in the second half, when we're down a man, we actually created, without the stat telling me that, there was actual opportunity that we could have gone in transition. So almost isolated that one to be like defense to attack transition review of like, hey, if we get in these scenarios, this is the game. This is what happened. We had chances. We didn't make the right pass or right decision. So we kind of went, say, game by game with there. Columbus was a little bit different of like, hey, this was your compact shape. This is where you created opportunities. We do look at, like, especially if it's a one-off about a goal conceded, there can be accountability and something like that. But also if it's, hey, this one, let's give an example, Bartek gives the ball away. Hey, don't do that again. Like, it's something that hopefully it never happens, you know?
Yeah.
Now we can talk about areas we build out in, but we always try to review if it's a consistent theme of, are we giving the same goals up? I think somebody asked us this, and it's like, if we're giving the same goals up, now we have a problem. So we looked at like the 3 set pieces from Salt Lake. We reviewed those, and then we moved on to something else in the game that would help us move forward. So we've always addressed issues first, and then go to what the game maybe gave us, and then from there, so that we don't just consistently like, hey, you did this, and it's chop and change. the theme of the game, and then you move forward from there.
So, a couple of quick curveballs for you. You've been in Atlanta, obviously, for a while. What's your favorite place to eat?
Oof. I'm not going to say like an Atlanta great one because
That's okay.
I've not been to a ton of places. I'm trying to think something.
Or type of food. It ain't got to be a specific restaurant.
Type of food. You know what? The Red Eyed Mule up here in Marietta is like a breakfast place that's really good. It was on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and they've got some good breakfast food. So that place is probably one of my favorite, and it's local here. So.
And then again, just to kind of give people the opportunity to kind of get to know you more. What do you and your family? What do y'all kind of do for fun? When you do have that little bit of free time that you have.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for asking about them because the most important thing to me. We've been my kids are a little bit older, getting a little bit older now, and so we were able to do a little bit more outdoor stuff. Like the other day, we played pickleball. Me, my son, my daughter, and my wife, which was a test of my patience. While it was hot and steamy and all that, but we playing a little bit of pickleball. We like to go on hikes a lot. Just recently, we went down to the Beltline, walked around down there. The kids, they love like anything outdoors. Really, my son loves playing sports. My daughter loves dancing and art and all that. And my wife's the orchestrator of all of it, so she's always getting us to do something. But we played putt golf. We were at Putt Shack. We did that. We were just trying to do something fun together, create different memories, and exploring different areas. We love doing that. But yeah, we're always trying something different during whether it's a day off or 2 days off if we ever get that.
So I got to give you a quick shout out. You were correct. It is putt, not mini golf. So got it right. Rob, I really appreciate you coming on, hanging out with us for a little bit. I know you are a busy man. We'll get you out of here. But is there anything at all, last thing that you want to tell the fans? Anything in particular that you just say, hey, this is something that needs to be put out there?
No, I mean, nothing. I appreciate everyone. The support that I've had, like that we've had as a staff, like the club, like, and I mean that in the good and the bad times, that people that support the club, I understand that when things aren't great, you're unhappy, and you should be. Like, I grew up with my dad being we're from Chicago originally, and he was a Bears, Bulls, Cubs fan, and I remember growing up him screaming at the TV about the Bears being bad for a lot of years. And so when I watched that, I'm getting there in a long way, but when I watched him do that, I went like, man, he's really cares about this. And so even when I hear the negative, I try to remember my dad in some ways of how passionate he was and how much that team or that sport might have meant to him. And so I have an appreciation for that. That doesn't mean I want them screaming bad things at me like my dad might have been screaming at the TV, but I can really appreciate their support and that they're always there. They make a massive difference. Every player in this league, I would imagine, wants to come and play here in Atlanta. I enjoy coaching in front of them. I hope we make them proud every single time we can step on the field. And yeah, I'm grateful for their support and how they've treated myself and the staff and the rest and my family as well. It's been really, really, really amazing.
Rob Valentino, really appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for coming on, man. This has been awesome.
Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Rob Valentino with Tyler earlier. Great interview, and really appreciate Rob sitting down with the Scarves and Spikes podcast to talk about Atlanta United. Tyler has a special guest he'd like to introduce to everybody.
Yeah, little baby girl got a little attached today, and I went out there to go check in on the family and put her to bed. And she said, nope, can I come hang out on the podcast for a minute?
This time.
Yeah, Stella says howdy, everybody. You say hi?
I love putt. Hi.
Hi.
There, you got your 5 seconds of fame, baby girl.
I did putt check on Sunday myself.
Oh yeah,
We don't have that in Ohio.
It's a lot of fun. Putt check is a lot of fun. Definitely recommend those watching and listening go to it if you have the means to do so. Sorry, they don't have it in Ohio, by the way, Tommy.
Oh, I wanted to cash my 401k out and build one here, but it's way too. I don't have enough. I don't have enough for the 401k. A little bit pricey for it.
A little pricey. No, but talking about Rob, he seems like a very down to earth guy. Tyler and I we deal with him in the media setting, so we don't get to pick his brain a whole lot outside of the media setting. As Britta's saying in the YouTube chat, is Tyler started the same age as Henry.
I'm muting now.
Sorry. No, but yeah, Rob seems like a really down to earth guy, and Tyler, you and I deal with him in the media settings. Doug, Jason, Mike, all those folks deal with him in media settings. You don't really get to sit down with him and chat and get one on one with him and really get to know him. What he does outside of the game, how he got to where he was, what his trajectory was coming up to Atlanta United. And he said earlier, the circumstances haven't been great to get him to where he is right now, but it's good to see him settling in and really leaving his print on the club, even as an interim head coach. As an interim coach,
pragmatic.
He's very pragmatic.
It robs some DPs.
The things that he said, like, I thought, like, I'm always going to go back to the pragmatic thing, right? Because I think that's kind of what this team needed. I thought for the longest time it was, like chemistry. There's a fine balance. We've said it before, but like chemistry is one thing. Play into the opponent that's in front of you is another. And striking that balance is not always easy. But he said it, right? You can't just go out and run the same thing every single week. And
someone else did that.
Well, right. I mean, to be fair, a lot of coaches do that. There are a lot of coaches across the world that do that. And because they think like, hey, the same 11 guys, they're going to be better than if we start throwing pieces in and out. And I do understand it. I get where it's coming from. But like, you're not going to play the Red Bulls the same way that you're going to play, Miami. Two totally different teams, totally different styles of team, right? Montreal, he mentioned it in the interview. And that was one of the things, for those of us that were on the watch along that we did for the Montreal game, I said, look at how high Montreal is playing and look at how high they, thank you, Colonel. Colonel said, not even going to wait till the end to say it's an effing brilliant interview. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. But he said Montreal, like they saw in the beginning, like Montreal was pushing their attackers up high. Like Atlanta was playing really deeper than they probably wanted to. And Atlanta was never able to take advantage of the space that Montreal kind of had in between their lines. And that was, I think, probably a pretty glaring weakness that you could look at and say, hey, we should have exploited that. But they go into the half, they come out. Obviously things don't go their way necessarily, but they played better. Yeah. So it's nice seeing the chess moves, right? The pieces that are getting moved, not just in the time between matches, but also in the matches. Like some of the subs have been good. Some of the subs have made an impact. And to be fair, I mean, Rob's still learning. Like, and I think every good coach would say that they're learning every day. But just massive respect for him. He's been thrown into a really tough situation, and I think he's making the best of it. I mean, exactly. You just beat one of the best teams in the league, arguably the best team in the league. So you gave yourself a massive boost going into Leagues Cup break.
Yeah.
Gave yourself a massive boost while you're waiting on reinforcements, and you put yourself in the playoffs as of right now. And
as of now.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ask for a better place to be, though, for a month before MLS starts back. So good stuff, though. I really enjoyed talking to Rob.
Yeah, really good interview. So, you mentioned the Columbus game on Saturday, Atlanta winning that really against all odds, and what that can do to them going into Leagues Cup. Of course, you have DC United coming up on Friday, and then Santos Laguna after that. But, of course, we'll focus on DC United first. That's on Friday. And I don't know if we can talk about Leagues Cup without discussing sort of the narrative around it. A lot of supporters, not Atlanta United supporters, but there are supporters from around the league who are not participating the way they would normally participate for normal MLS match in protest of how they see MLS prioritizing Leagues Cup over Open Cup, which I feel like I think at this point in time, you have to have a situation where you're dealing with fixture congestion. I mean, this is already, I've mentioned this in the past, this is a lot of matches for these players. So I can definitely understand where the supporters can see, okay, this is not fair that the league trumps up Leagues Cup over Open Cup. And I love Open Cup. You guys know this. I'm a big Open Cup fan. I'm disappointed that US soccer / MLS are kind of deprioritizing that only certain teams playing in Open Cup at the expense of Leagues Cup and teams going after it in Leagues Cup. I feel like you can have both rather than an either or situation. If you can get yourself to a point where you can expand rosters and create ways for more players to be available for your team, because you're dealing with fixture congestion. You have a ton of matches already, even taking away Leagues Cup. Like, you have like 50, 60 matches if you play in every single competition that's available to you, not counting Champions Cup. So MLS definitely does need to take a look at this and say, how can we empower our teams? If we want to go for Leagues Cup and Open Cup, how can we empower our teams to be in the position where they can play at the highest level, whether competition they're in? And I'm sure we have this conversation overseas in England where there are like 20 cups, whatever, I don't know, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, you have obviously Premier League. I'm sure this conversation is being had over there, but what can MLS do to rectify that and put their players in the position to succeed? So that's where I come out on it. And I feel like the supporters, not Atlanta United, of course, or at this time, I should say, but I feel like the supporters are well within their rights. And Tommy, I know you were kind of talking about it a little bit before the show. They're just the not war, but just how the supporters in MLS are kind of at odds over this issue.
Yeah, like, and it goes back to the whole thing of the last weekend, right? Like, people were, doing the silent protest for the tickets, right? Like, if you want to do that, cool. If you still wanted to go and sing your heart out in the supporter section, cool. If you're a supporters group that will not support the Leagues Cup, great. Like, right now, Columbus is getting a bunch of trash because their fans came out and said, we are still going to support, even though we were against Leagues Cup and, all pro for Open Cup. They changed their mind. They said they're going to support the team, all of that. Now everyone's turning on them and calling them traitors. Like, do what you want to do. Life's too short to, like, get upset about these little things and, like, oh, this person's not performing. This supporters group's doing this, but this supporters group not. Like, everybody doesn't have to be behind one single thought here, right? Like, everybody has their own mind to do everything with that. I will say, though, we were talking about this. Thanks to the Battered Herons group, they started an MLS podcast, and I was on there yesterday. We were talking about this with some Liga MX podcasters, and that was fun to do. Don Garber actually did an interview or did a presser like a little bit ago, and I just happened to flash by, and I saw he brought up Atlanta. Dude thought that they played the game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. He said they opened up, this big stadium for 1,400 people. What?
Well, relatively,
you don't even know where it is.
Fifth Third is. No, I'm just kidding.
Get out of here! Like, he doesn't even know. I'm sorry. Like, what they did to Open Cup, and I don't know all of the behinds of it, but like, when ESPN had the rights, it was great, right? Like, it was on there. A lot of people have ESPN Plus. You were able to watch all the games you wanted. You could be the sicko, take 8 tiles and watch all the games at once. And
I did it.
I know, we all did. And then what happens? Like, it gets sent to basically Bleacher Report to die. That's what it did. And then it goes on to YouTube, which really wasn't on YouTube. You had to go to the US Cup website, give, a gallon of blood, sign your first child away to get access to watch it on your computer. If you wanted to watch on anything but your computer, you had to find out weird ways to be able to get it to your Xbox or your PlayStation or whatever you wanted to watch on it. It's absolutely ridiculous how hard they have made to watch this tournament. And I'm sorry, even the teams that were in it didn't promote it as much as they should have. And that includes Atlanta. I didn't see a ton of talk about it, like as far as like on their socials, like throughout the week. It just seems like it wasn't a big thing here, and it's the oldest tournament. I'm sorry, cup sets are great. Like we were saying that it was like almost like March Madness. Like, I'm sorry, we've been on we've been on 2 cup sets in the past 2 years, right? Where we've been upset by a lower level team. Like for us, it sucks. For those teams, it's really cool. It's really fun to have there. So I think it's a good thing. Leagues Cup is fun too. Like I enjoy that, but just let people have fun on what they want here. But I can understand like why people are upset with it and why only a few teams that were able to be in it. But you need to figure this out because the fans are unhappy. And Leagues Cup, looking at the tickets, like some teams are doing really well. Also happens that some of those teams are doing really well right now. The sales for Atlanta, they aren't great. They aren't great for this game on Friday. I was looking it up, and like I split it up between resale. There's a ton of resale, but there's a ton of tickets that are still through Atlanta United that they haven't sold.
Feel like the old El Paso commercials. Why not both? Why not both Open Cup and Leagues Cup? You guys remember those?
But you could do that, but they chose not to. They said, Garber said, "Screw it, we're not doing it."
No, and that's the thing. They could do it, and I totally understand from a player perspective. Like that is a crap ton of games, but I just feel like there's some things in life that you don't want to mess with, and one of those is the oldest competition in U.S. sports history in terms of a team competition. Look, y'all know me. Like I'm pro Open Cup all day, every day. I think it should be a requirement. Honestly, I think every team should have to play in it, and especially every MLS team, because I think it's mutually beneficial. And I think it's on U.S. Soccer to put the money into it to make it worth people's time. You've essentially, given the kid a disease and then tossed him out because you gave him the problem. Like y'all didn't push it for so long. And then now you're just trying to get rid of it. And it's like, no, dude, like this has been around for so long. It is tradition. It is history.
Yeah.
It is for many, many teams, the vast majority of teams in this country, it is their Super Bowl. The moment that they get to go play, possibly in Atlanta United or an LAFC or whoever, or even, less than that, like, a USL League 2 team getting to go play even a championship team. Like it's a big deal for them. Yeah. And you will never grow the younger and the lower leagues in this country if you don't give people something to look forward to. I applaud USL, but fans that, cities that only have USL teams, it gets to the point where it's like, all right, we have this to look forward to. We won a championship, but you're never going to have, as it stands right now, you're never going to have that big trophy lift moment that you would have for a, first division or even second division team without something like the Open Cup for a lot of these lower division sides. It's just not going to happen. So you always hear the magic of the cup. You always hear all of that. Like I get it. And I get, there are definitely people that are rightfully saying, well, y'all are going to protest in favor of the Open Cup, but where were you when the Open Cup was being played? And that's totally valid. Like, I think fans have to get behind it and support it, but also the teams, especially U.S. Soccer, they've got to promote their freaking product. They have to. And it's just a little unfair, especially for these lower division sides that just don't get that opportunity to be on the country stage. I mean, I'm not saying people from around the world are watching the Open Cup, but on the world stage, like, it's just frustrating. So,
I was very
off an Open Cup tangent as opposed to Leagues Cup, but
no, and
I get it though.
Yeah, it was very disappointing. I think we all agreed to see that being kind of de-emphasized. But again, I think we all agree, hopefully MLS at some point can find a way to prioritize both competitions without cutting U.S. Open Cup off at the knees, which is essentially
Even
what
if
they're
you
doing
spread out the
at
Open
this
Cup a
point.
little bit longer.
Yeah, no, find a solution. Find a solution that benefits all parties, and hopefully they do that. Hopefully they and U.S. Soccer can do that. But yeah,
Oh.
going back.
Well, real quick, one thing that people don't understand too, I think, though, is like, so the final for the Open Cup is going to be in, what is it, August? Maybe September? I can't remember.
I
But
think it's September, yeah.
the next year, like 2025 Open Cup starts like 2 weeks after that ends. But you won't hear about it, right? Like most MLS fans won't even prioritize it or even really hear much of it until December at the earliest. But you have all of the play-in rounds to get to the
Yeah.
point that we consider round one of the Open Cup when, all the MLS teams enter. And that's shameful. Like,
Yeah.
again, U.S. Soccer, put
Pop
those
it up.
crazy fun matches on, a big time network, ESPN. I mean, like, or if you're going to do Bleacher Report because you have the agreement with Warner,
Yeah.
make it so that it's on Max, whatever. But you've got to prioritize it and let people, follow that team that may be making a Cinderella run longer than, 3 games out of the freaking year.
Yeah, and hopefully they do that. Hopefully they come to their senses and finally do that because they've been crying out for that for ages. But yeah, it's kind of starting about the Leagues Cup. It is happening again. Of course, Friday it begins for Atlanta United. They take on DC United, 8 p.m. kickoff at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So a little bit later than we're used to for an Atlanta United match. If you're not familiar with the basic structure, no ties, obviously. After 90 minutes, if it is tied, it goes straight to penalties. I believe that rule is still in place. But Atlanta United, of course, didn't win any of the matches, League Cup matches last year, so their stay was pretty short. And we kind of joke around it, but you only need to win just one match essentially to get yourself into the next round. It seems like so. It's Atlanta, DC, and Santos Laguna in Group K, starting on Friday. How do you guys feel? I feel a little more optimistic coming off the back of the Columbus win. I feel optimistic, especially since Atlanta, they of course lost to this team at home, went on the road and beat them. I feel like this will be a little more even. I feel like Atlanta can give themselves half a chance to win this match against an opponent, a DC opponent, guys, that compared to when they were at home, compared to the matches that they've played against them in MLS play, this is a totally different team. Essentially, it's Benteke and everybody else. Like Benteke, I believe, has 16 goals. Their next highest scorer has 3 or something like that. So he is their offense. He is their attack at this point. So if you're able to mark him out of the match, I assume that will fall to Steon and Derek Williams. If you're able to mark him out of the match, you have a really strong chance of winning this game, winning this match. So that's going to be priority number 1 for them going into Friday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And Tommy, I know you said the stadium doesn't really seem like it'll be all that full on Friday. And for different reasons, it's a Friday night. Plus, it's a struggling team still. So the atmosphere is going to be a little off. I'm already prepared for that. Atmosphere is going to be just very sort of hollow. You won't get like 30 or 40,000 screaming fans or anything like that. But can the team create their own energy? We kind of saw that on Saturday with the protests over the ticket prices. The team had to kind of create their own energy out there. Can they do the same thing on Friday against DC United in this first match of League Cup 2024 for Atlanta? So
this team's so different
feel
without
optimistic.
Gregerson, though. Yeah, I mean, like, first game they didn't have him, right? The whole center back pairing was all screwed up in that first game, and I think was it Cobb, I think, that had to deal with him? I'm pretty sure last time.
Yeah.
And y'all know my feelings about Cobb, but I mean, you're putting an 18-year-old against a guy that played in the Premier League. Like, it's not okay.
Right. And you're going to start your starters. I mean, they're still trying to win this, right? And we looked at this tournament before the season started, and we kind of just said, oh, Leagues Cup. We're not going to have Caleb Wiley. We're not going to have Almada. We didn't know that we weren't really going to have them. We just thought we weren't going to have them. but they're really, really gone here. So you don't even have them as at any option here. So look, I think both games are winnable, and you're at home, right? This tournament is not friendly to Liga MX at all. It's just not. As the tournament continues, it becomes more unfair to them, in my opinion. They're gone longer. They're away from their families, all of this. So you need to be able to get your wins when you can here. I think they can beat DC here for sure. I mean, the offense is producing. They're getting better at that. They've got some time. This first time they've been able to practice, right? Really go to the training ground for a full week.
Yeah. So
they're
Rob,
getting creative.
What Rob just said.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think, and it's refreshing to see someone changing the game every game to, being able to figure out how to win here, right? So we don't know what to expect, but more importantly, DC doesn't know what to expect coming out of this. So, yeah, I think they can win this game for sure. Hopefully it's not in penalties. I can't deal with that. Does a question for both of you, because it's a different tournament. I assume it's Brad Guzan.
That's a good question.
Is it Brad Guzan?
Yeah, I think early in the tournament, I think there's a good chance that you see Cohen. That's something that I didn't really think about. The Brad Guzan or Josh Cohen. I think Cohen is already your cup goalkeeper, so I think you just stick with what works in that regard. And if you make a run at it toward the later rounds of the tournament, face opponents of higher credibility, higher stature in this tournament, provided you make it to there, maybe bring in Brad Guzan. But I think at least in the early stages, you do bring in Josh Cohen to start these two matches, at least in the group stage, and then the early portions of knockout rounds if you make it. So that's definitely a good shout. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Cohen up there.
Yeah, I mean, also you're coming off like multiple matches and many weeks, right? Like it's been back to back to back to back. You got to give the man a break. You have to. You have another very talented, very capable goalkeeper in Josh Cohen that can come in and handle business and let Brad like have a little R&R for a minute. And I don't want to say this as an excuse. And from like the coaching part of my brain, I would never say this out loud, but I'm not Atlanta United's coach, so whatever. But you have to go into this. Josh Cohen can be the guy, right? Brad Guzan, we know, is fully capable, but you need to just let the guy take a minute, take a step back, and understand that in the beginning of the season, and probably even more so up until the Columbus match, you didn't have high hopes in Leagues Cup. And, that's not supposed to be an excuse. But nobody's going to blame you if you go and put Josh Cohen in over Brad Guzan and Atlanta crashes out of the group stage. I mean, you did it last year, and last year you arguably had a more talented team at the time. So I don't think that decision should be factored in at all. I think Brad, just give him some rest. Like he deserves it.
Yeah.
And also, it's not like you have, a third string goalkeeper waiting back there. You have two. I see Josh Cohen, but like we got to give Quentin Westberg some credit too. Like the guy's more than capable of handling business. But again, I hate to say it, but like you're just, the expectations have not been that high from a fan perspective. I'm not pulling this out of thin air. I'm repeating what many people have said. So you got to go into it with the idea that, Josh Cohen, more than capable. We brought him in for a reason. We know this, and he can go and do the thing. And I don't think it'll be because of Josh Cohen that Atlanta crashes out if they do. That being said, to the original question, I don't think they're going to crash out. I do think you've shown that you can beat DC. You know their playbook, which is Christian Benteke, period. You have two very talented center backs. One of them is coming off, the best game of his career in Atlanta from an offensive perspective. He's riding that high. We already know how he is defensively. Derek Williams is over there thugging on people every single match. He's doing the thing. So you know how to handle it. You can win that game and more or less just guarantee you make it through. But then you play Santos Laguna, and they haven't won a match since March.
They're bad.
They're bad. Like, they're really bad.
Yeah.
And I get that it's a different league and, different leagues may be better than MLS, whatever. But I know Bruno said, Tyler, don't say that. Last time you said a player was perfect to give him a goal. But then he rebounded the next game. So at least we got that going for us. But no, Santos Laguna is not a great team right now. They're not playing well.
How many DPs do they have?
I don't know. Probably more than 3, though. I guarantee it.
50. So we'll get into predictions before we get out of here, but I'll kind of start us off with predictions. Like I said earlier, this is a different DC team than Atlanta has faced. So you have a little more reinforcements in the squad than you had, the first 2 times that you played them. So I do say, yes, Cohen starts this match, and I do think Atlanta United wins 2-1. Tommy, I don't think it goes to the dreaded penalties like you wished against personally. I think Atlanta do win in regulation 2-1. I think you see Saba score, continue his great run of form. I think you see Daniel Rios. I think you see him return to the lineup, return to the starting 11, start against DC. I think you see him score. So I'm going with 2-1 Atlanta. Goals by Saba, Lubjanica, and Daniel Rios. What do you think, gentlemen?
Tell me what
Tyler,
you
already know what we already know what Tyler's going to say. Atlanta's going to win, but we'll let Tommy go next.
1-0 Atlanta.
I mean, I'll take a clean sheet all day.
Scores? Who scores?
Williams.
Derek Williams. Header from the box, huh? Or a
Sure.
banger from distance.
He's open a lot.
Yeah.
He gets open. I could see it happening.
Who scores, Tyler?
I'm going to say 3-1.
Oh, 3-1 Atlanta.
Yep. I'll give it to Daniel Rios. I will give it to Saba. And I will give it to Shande. And at least one of those is going to come from like the back of an index card that Liam Kerr and Rob Valentino drew up at like a Waffle House at 2:00 in the morning. It's going to be something wild, like the opening of a couple matches ago, and then these 2 Stian Gregerson headers from last match. It'll be something wild, but yeah, Rios, Saba.
I'm here for it.
I'm here for it all day.
He's been on fire, as Rob Valentino said on Saturday. So hopefully we see more of it. So yeah, again, DC United Friday night, not Saturday, Friday night, 8 p.m. Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Leagues Cup, Atlanta United kicking things off. Any final thoughts before we get out of here for this episode? Any final thoughts?
Well, just real quick. Predictions. Omar saying 6-9 Atlanta. I want to make sure just so I could say that nice. Bruno 2-1 Atlanta. Ashton 2-0. Gregerson with an opening header, and Jamal Thierry Galazzo. Okay. 1-0 Atlanta. Adam. Saba scores, he says. And 2-0 Atlanta from Jack. Man, the vibes are going well.
Yeah, they are.
Get a couple back up here. Derek saying 2-1 Atlanta. Adam, did you change your? Hang on. Do we have another Adam?
Adrian says 1-0 Gregerson header.
Okay.
That's Adrian's prediction.
There we go.
But yeah, vibes are good in the chat as far as predictions are concerned.
It's so nice.
Exactly. I love it. What do you guys got before you get out of here?
Humble pie. Eat humble pie. I got to eat humble pie, the restaurant down in Atlanta, very close to the Putt Check place. Great pizza. Great brunch. That's all I got. I've been holding that in. He was talking about a breakfast place. Rob was talking about a breakfast place. So I had to bring it up.
That's not sponsored, by the way. That's not a sponsored segment.
I'll reach out to him. We had a nice server.
Hey, maybe someday. Tyler, final thoughts.
What
is your restaurant recommendation?
What?
What is your
Well,
restaurant recommendation? Tell me,
Oh,
Dave
man.
Rose, what is yours?
Oh man, you put me on the spot like I do with all of our guests, and I can't tell you a good answer.
Now
I'll
you
give
know how
you.
it feels, jerk.
I know, I'm a douchebag. Um, Man, I really like a local Mexican restaurant down here called La Paria, but
a
that's not
chain,
in
though.
Atlanta. It is a chain, but I like it,
Yeah.
so I'm
Okay.
just throwing it
Okay.
out there.
Yeah, I like good Mexican too. You can't
Yeah.
name me a place, but I like good Mexican. There is a Mexican place in Gwinnett County that I really like. It's kind of a hole in the wall in the supermercado up on Duluth Highway
Yep.
120, up in the northern suburbs. So I'm going to give that a shout. Again, not a sponsored segment at all, but yes.
But could
Shout out
be.
to those guys. Could be. We'll see.
There's actually a Greek place.
figure it
It's
out.
a chain as well up in Atlanta. I can't remember the name of it, man. It was so good though. I've been a couple of times.
It's funny you mentioned Greek because the Olympics are starting this week.
They are. U.S. didn't get off to the best start today.
No, they did not. No, they
But,
did not. But hey, maybe we can I'll have some Greek food in the next couple of weeks in honor of the Olympics.
One more thing. I know you're trying to end
Yes.
this. You keep saying, okay, we're trying to finish up. One more thing, because you guys got to do it last one, and I wanted to do it at the beginning, but forgot. Thank you to everyone that hung out and came and said hi.
Absolutely.
While I was down there, every time I come down, like it feels like that, like 4 hours of drinking, it like is like 30 minutes, and it's just there's so many people. Like I've met so many people throughout the years, going to the tailgates, going to the backyard, all of that. So thank you, Bruno. Thanks for the shot. John, thanks for hanging out with us at the. We met up with. I thought his name was Greg. His like Twitter handle's Egghead Greg, so I just kept wanting to call him Greg, so I screwed that up, but he showed us like the whole Battery area. It was a fun time. But yeah, we'll be back in October. Sucks it's a Wednesday game, but let's get crazy on a Wednesday.
Argentina and Morocco now in 90 minutes of stoppage time as we speak.
Yeah, and like said in the chat, Thiago Almada is actively getting burgled from his locker room.
I know, that's crazy. And we haven't even had the opening ceremony. We got this match going on. We have Canadian women's team spying on other teams, New Zealand using drones, espionage, all kinds of crazy stuff. I can't wait for the next turn of events at the Olympics.
It's still over almost 2 days until the freaking opening ceremony.
Right, exactly.
This place is already going upside down.
I know. Next thing you know, like someone's gonna get poisoned by the Seine River or something. Sorry, no. If you're listening in France, no, I love you guys in France. Paris is amazing.
We
are done.
All right.
I think.
Look at that. I was hoping you were gonna do it. Look at that,
Hey, I had to. Thanks everyone, as always. Really appreciate you as always joining us. After
your mic's. Oh, there you're back.
And you sound like you're drowning in the Seine right now. I don't know what's going on with you.
You're better
now. Yes, yeah. We will see you after the Atlanta United DC United match.
I'm seeing Deadpool.
Hopefully, we are talking about a win. You're seeing Deadpool.
I didn't even realize that it was on the same day. So I'm gonna
hopefully.
I'm multitask. I can multitask.
Hopefully, Atlanta can marvel its fans on Friday. No.
Just end it now.
Okay, we're done. Bye.
You've done enough.
Sorry.
You've done enough.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.